see that there's but one reality upon the earth and high above, the truth that all was made from love. A love that calls to us to fly above the hills, above the sky, above the storms, above the pain, a land of peace and laughter reigns.
So join us.
Oh, Master, may thy joy fill our days. Oh, Master, may thy wisdom guide our ways. Guide all our hopes and all our dreams, past every glow that only seems, into the light, the inner sun, into the truth that we're all one. Help us to find in every hour, in every thought, in every flower, a joy that spans eternity, a truth that makes us ever free. Oh, Master, may thy joy fill our days. Oh, Master, may thy wisdom guide our ways. Oh, Master, may thy joy fill our days. Oh, Master, may thy wisdom guide our ways.
Good morning. This reading is from Rays of the One Light by Swami Kriyananda, which are parallel commentaries on the Bible and Bhagavad Gita. This week's reading is The Law of Karma, Bondage or Soul Release. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramhansa Yogananda. Nice to hear Swamiji's voice.
That's an interesting ringer.
Yeah, that's lovely. Okay. The following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramhansa Yogananda. The Epistle of St. Paul to the Galatians, epistle just means letter, meaning a letter that you write and send, contains this oft-quoted statement, "Be not deceived, God is not mocked, for whatsoever a man soweth, so shall he reap." And again, just to clarify the language, whatever a man plants, that's what he harvests, is what it means. In Autobiography of a Yogi, Paramhansa Yogananda tells a story from the life of the Benares saint, Trilanga Swami. A skeptic once determined to expose Trilanga as a charlatan. A large bucket of calcium lime mixture used in whitewashing walls was placed before the Swami. "Master," the materialist said in mock reverence, "I have brought you some clabbered milk. Please drink it." Trilanga unhesitatingly drained to the last drop the container full of burning lime. In a few minutes, the evildoer fell to the ground in agony. "Help, Swami, help!" he cried. "I am on fire. Forgive my wicked test." The great yogi broke his habitual silence. "Scoffer," he said, "you did not realize when you offered me poison that my life is one with your own. Except for my knowledge that God is present in my stomach, as in every atom of creation, the lime would have killed me. Now that you know the divine meaning of boomerang, never again play tricks on anyone." The well-purged sinner, healed by Trilanga's words, slunk feebly away. Yogananda goes on to say, "The reversal of pain was not due to any volition of the master, but came about through unerring application of the law of justice, which upholds creation's farthest swinging orb. Men of God realization like Trilanga allow the divine law to operate instantaneously. They have banished forever all thwarting cross-currents of ego. Not by reason alone, but by self-realization are the ins and outs of destiny fully understood. Their web, though tied forever to the post of ego motivation, is too intricate to be perceived as a single thread. Only great masters can see it with clarity. It is visible to them in all its workings, not from within the tangle, but from above in superconsciousness. As Sri Krishna said in the 4th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, "He who beholds inaction in action, and action in inaction, is wise among men. He is one with the Spirit. He has attained the true goal of action, perfect freedom." Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind. Om, Om, Om.
I have a cough drop in my mouth, and I'm trying to get rid of it. Almost there. Today's topic of karma is a very good topic for discipleship, although I could say any of Master's topics is a very good topic for discipleship. So we have many new to be disciples here today. It's very nice to see you. You know, Master would repeat many times the phrase, "Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all these things shall be added unto you." It's a quote from the Bible. You know, we do both the Bible and the Bhagavad Gita here. We don't do the Bible like any kind of a traditional Christian thing, especially as practiced in India. Oh, look at that. Sorry, people online. But we still do both. And so whenever there's a new person, I always feel a little hesitant about it because I don't want anyone to get the impression that we practice some kind of a crazy Christian thing here, which we don't. I feel a lot of the way Christianity is practiced in India, not for everybody, but for many, it is done in a way that it pushes itself on others and it's not done in a good way for others. It's done in a way with guilt, and it doesn't give Christ, who was an avatar, much credit for for having been a self-realized being. So that said, I said this quote from the Bible, which is a very useful quote. "Seek ye first the kingdom of God, and all these things shall be added on to you." It means that if we seek God first in everything, then we get the things we actually end up wanting, although we're more detached in a way. But if we seek him first, then we end up getting everything we need. And if we make him first in everything, we end up getting everything we need. We don't make him first so that we get what we want. We make him first out of the love of our hearts. And that love and devotion we develop over time. We develop this love and devotion, and to a point where we feel unified with God. Or for me, I focus on the Divine Mother. And so the prayers go to God or to Divine Mother to a point where we learn how to pray as though we are having a personal conversation with the divine. And that's really the goal, to have so much love in our hearts that we are praying to the divine this way. I was thinking about the fire ceremony today, and it's such a beautiful symbol of our lives. We do the fire ceremony where first we do Gayatri Mantra and we put ghee into the fire, and you watch the flames get higher and higher and higher because the ghee is feeding the fire. Well, this represents our devotion being fired up. The ghee represents putting devotion into the fire. So our devotion over time becomes more and more and more. Meditation really helps us learn how to have that personal relationship with God because it can give us a direct experience of God. And so the devotion, our own devotion, comes into play for us to increase our fires of desire for God. So the more we give devotion, the more the fire of wanting God is fed. And also, that's the fire that's basically the kundalini flowing up the spine. And then we do the Mahamrityunjaya mantra, and we're adding seeds of rice. We're adding rice into the fire. And these seeds represent karmic seeds, our own seeds that are lodged in our astral spine. You offer these seeds of karma into the fire of devotion, and they get burned up. This is how Kriya works. The fires that we develop, the kundalini rising in the spine, the devotion in the heart, all of these things help burn karma in our astral spine. And the more we have this devotion, the more it encourages more and more kundalini to go up the spine. Master said, Kriya plus devotion brings freedom in God. So Kriya plus devotion. So I wanted to bring that up first because I recently got an email from a friend who I've known for over 30 years. And it's probably good that the power went out, so I doubt she would ever see this talk and me using her as an example. But she's a friend who is not on the same spiritual path I am. I've known her for 30 years, back when I was first starting, well, a little bit after I was first starting my deeper connection with God. And at the time, she was a very spiritual person, and it was more kind of spirituality in the beginning, where you start noticing little miracles in your life, and you get the parking spot you want, and you start playing with God in a way. You start feeling like, wow, there was some grace that just happened, and wow, that wasn't me, that was some other force. And you start realizing that, oh, someone else is here with me. And so we were in that stage together, and then I found Ananda, and we continued to be friends. But I noticed, I always prayed for her, can please God or Master, please help her find her spiritual path. And over time, she has become more and more deeply unhappy over these years. And she wrote out of desperation, just saying, you've known me all these years, you live a spiritual life, what do you think? And what I noticed is her same complaint about life, which really came from a family tragedy that happened nearly 30 years ago. Shortly after I knew her, a big tragedy happened in her life. And she then, from that point on, felt always left out of her family situation, and would really feel sad and heartbroken about it. This was 30 years ago. And her email was the exact same thing she used to say all these years. Her feeling as though it was a brand new feeling. Like, oh, guess what? Today, now, I am feeling heartbroken over this situation, and, I don't know what to do. I just feel so heartbroken. And what it is it's an example that we all do. And the other phrase I'd like to say is, there but for the grace of God go I. Because before we find the spiritual path, we are stuck in our karmic bondage, We are stuck repeating the same things over and over again, lifetime after lifetime. And then we find our guru. And then we find our spiritual path, or we find Kriya Yoga. And we suddenly find that our love of God begins to grow, and we can start to move forward a little bit more. We may not know how much, but we begin to move forward. And so I found her email very sad that she was feeling this way. And I said, you know, you've asked me, so I'm going to mention some things, which is you have been feeling this way for the past 30 years. I know it. And it's not a new feeling for you. And this is how we are. We have karmic patterns in our life. Think about any complaint you have now. Did you have that same complaint 10 years ago? And if it is a karmic issue, not just a immediate issue, but a true karmic issue that repeats itself, it's meant to be resolved. And resolved in this life if possible. And now that many of us have Kriya or Hangsa, now that we have meditation, we have the opportunity to move forward through these old patterns of attitude or complaints or difficulties. And I'm not judging any kind of complaint even. We like to think, oh, a disciple never complains. But when we have a karmic pattern, this same issue will come up over and over and over again in different ways to try and fool us, you know. And so the issue comes up over and over in different ways. And I know for my friend, this issue has come up over and over for the past 30 years in different ways. And every time it comes up, we act as though it's new. There's a veil in front of us, or a veil in our minds, that doesn't help us recognize it as a karmic pattern. And when it is a karmic pattern, then it's something that's happened for lifetimes. And if it's happened for lifetimes, it means that even though we might think this karmic thing is with the current people in our life, it's not. And what we do is we bang our heads against a wall trying to resolve it with the people around us. And it doesn't work. And then we feel heartbroken over and over again with the people around us because we're trying to work it out with them. But that's not what God wants. She's a very spiritual person. I know it. I feel it still. And yet, in the past 10 years, she became much more material-minded. She has lost many friends. She's lost jobs for some reason. She's losing these jobs. She still has her house. She's alone now. Her husband is gone. But she struggles very hard on the material plane. But she has also, and she wrote to me and said, I'm just living my life robotically right now. I come home, I watch TV, I do this, I do that. And so what she's done is she's kind of let go of the spiritual aspect of her life. And so now she's in a repeat mode of just kind of automatically feeling the same things over and over again without being able to move forward. This is what we do lifetime after lifetime until we finally find our guru, until we finally find that technique like Kriya Yoga that can help free us from this karma. And so these karmic patterns, especially for a spiritual person, you know, everyone in this room is a spiritual person. God treats us differently. And I'll give another St. Teresa example. So she's traveling. I don't know, she would travel from, you could say, ashram to ashram. She would visit her nuns. So she would travel from place to place. And sometimes it was kind of treacherous the way she had to go. And one time there was a big rainstorm and it was muddy and she was riding a horse and fell off the horse and got back on the horse, and it was just a rough ride. And then she came to a river, and she thought, well, I'll try and have the horse cross the river. And then she fell in the river and was just like, oh, this is horrible. You know, I'm doing this for God, and yet this is a horrible thing happening to me. And then suddenly she finds herself on the other side of the river. God put her on the other side of the river, and she saw Christ. And he said, you know, I've taken care of you. And she says, oh, do you treat all your friends this way? You know, he's like, I really love you. You are my deep friend. Oh, you treat all your friends this way? Yes. Because God puts us in a vice when we are spiritual and we are trying to find our path. He puts us in a vice that can be very, very painful. And we keep reaching outside of ourselves, you know, will this take the pain away? Will that take the pain away? Will this take the pain away? And God says, until you turn inward, that pain is going to stay there. Until you turn to me. God is saying, not me. But until you turn to me, you will feel this pain this way. As you continue to try and reach outside of yourself to release the pain or to soothe the pain, then until you face me, you are going to continue to feel that pain. And I've watched this with my friend who, like I said, has the same complaint over and over and over again for the past 30 years. And I told her in the letter, but I've told her the same thing, you know, and I finally told her that I have said the same things to her over these years, and I've noticed that what I say doesn't resonate with her, so I don't know if I can actually help her. And then she wrote back and said, what you have said has been so wonderful. And yet she has said this to me over the years, over and over again. And so I didn't write back this time. Before, I always wanted to kind of save her. I wanted to make her feel better. But in some cases, Divine Mother says, you know what? You need to suffer until you can turn inwardly. You know, that's, like I said, God puts us in a vice and says, you're going to suffer and suffer and suffer until you finally turn to me. And so it's a special vice. It's like St. Teresa saying, you treat all your friends this way? And God saying, yes, because I'm going to test you. I'm going to put you through the ringer, and I'm going to see if you still love me after all of that. Do you still turn towards me when you're going through your hardest times? Do you still pray when you're going through a difficult time? Do you still ask for my help? Do you still call to me with all the love in your heart that you have, even when I've made you almost drown in the river? You know, these things. And I know my friend, like I said, she suffered a very deep tragedy. And so perhaps a part of her decided to turn away a little bit from God. And it's very easy to have this attitude. So many hard things have happened to me. God did this to me. We say this, God did this to me. We might even have a little hurt in our hearts we don't realize is there, that we just turned away a little bit. Like, how could you do that, you know? I can take this much, but I can't take this much, you know? And so we decide for ourselves, I only want this much, not this much. And God says, but I need to push you, because it takes very high energy to find God. High energy. High energy to meditate, high energy in your meditation, to reach higher states of consciousness. It takes energy. that kundalini that rises up in the spine and becomes larger and larger in the astral spine through Kriya Yoga, that takes energy to be able to have that fire flow through your spine. It takes energy. So God is saying, I am giving you tests so you get strong and you have lots of energy. Because there's nothing more effective in giving us energy than a crisis. We're laying, watching the videos on YouTube. Ooh, everything is wonderful. And then something bad happens and we have to hop up and go, oh my God, I got to deal with this. And see how, oh, I needed energy. And we get tossed these types of things. On the other hand, and we look at these things as bad. On the other hand, the more we develop this love of the divine, the more we develop that love, the divine is right there with us. You can feel it. The Divine Mother is right with us through every trial. It just takes being slightly quiet when you're going through that trial. Because usually you go through a trial and the mind is going, oh my God, what will I do? You know, we're saying, God, 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 what do I do? God, 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 what do I do? And we don't listen. We don't, or we might hear, no, not that. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm asking you for help, not that. So we just have to be a little quiet, listen to what will resolve that karmic pattern. And so, you know, my friend, she is still working on trying to resolve her current karma through all the people around her. And really, she needs to stop focusing on those people and needs to start focusing inside. But you can't tell someone that. I mean, I did say it, but they won't hear it until they are ready. You know, they won't hear it. And this is us. We have been through this millions of times since we were a lump of coal. We had our little issues, maybe as little amoebas. Other different kinds of amoebas came and were taking our space. And, you know, that was our karmic difficulty when we were amoebas. And, you know, I mean, we've had being eaten by lions and things like that. We've been through all of that, too. Now our issues are, I don't have enough money. You know, or that person's mean to me. You know, these are much more sattvic issues than invaders coming to the land and chopping heads off and things that we had to live through in earlier, less advanced times. So, try to recognize a karmic pattern. Try to, maybe even today, write in your journal if you have one. If you don't have one, start one. What are some of the patterns that I've seen going through my life? I think also for my friend, her pattern is wishing to have an ideal family. We want so badly to have our family be perfect somehow. Everybody happy, everybody getting along, everybody owning their mistakes, you know. Apologizing whenever they have done something difficult. You know, desiring that human family. People will often come to Ananda and think, finally, I found my perfect human family. In Ananda, I have not found my perfect human family, but I have found my perfect energetic family. Because a perfect human family would mean humans are perfect. You know, and humans will only give so much love. You know, you can only get so much from a human. It's very unsatisfying after a while, you know? But when you get the love of the divine, that is, nothing beats it. And once you've had that taste in meditation of the love from the divine, because you have to give your love first for her to come to you. But once you get that experience of the love from the divine, you'll never go back. You'll go, okay. Now you can like have it once and then you kind of fall asleep for 5 years or something, and then 5 years later, finally it comes back and you forget. But that's karma. And so we can fight that karma and try not to forget. It helps to write in a journal. But seek that love in the divine only. Don't seek it through people. You know, you'll see people here behave good and bad, just like anywhere else. The only difference is if you are trying to resolve a conflict with someone who meditates, there's more of a chance that they will own their mistakes, you know, because they want to progress. But there's no guarantee. and you'll see, you know, some people with this political ideal and this political ideal, completely opposites. And people are just as varied at Ananda. And yet, Master said, you know, of course from the Gita, to those who seek me, out of 1,000, really out of 1,000 of 1,000 will find me. And so he said, our odds are better. So even though we're just humans here, we're also seeking the divine, and that is a very special thing. And when we meditate together, energetically, we are a perfect family fit, because meditating together, there's nothing better, really. Of course, human interaction is great too when it works out. But really, that love of the divine, though, is even better. And that's a very inward thing. It has nothing to do with any other human being. But we can love God in other things as a step towards loving God. So in other people, rather than trying to say, I want your love, instead we give the love as if we are giving love to God through them. And we start loving God through everything. It's very easy in Hinduism because of all the other manifestations of God that are in Hinduism. It gives a very good way to love God in all these different ways. You know, I was thinking about Kali today, and you know, those of us in the U.S., Ananda, learn all about Hinduism early on. Swamiji wrote a book called The Hindu Way of Awakening. People usually have some kind of an affinity for Ganesha or Shiva or Krishna, most likely from lifetimes ago, but and collect their murtis in their homes and things like that. And but Kali, for a Westerner, can be a little confusing, but Master really explains her very well. And he writes in the autobiography of a yogi how he had his Kali who came alive for him. And he talks about the Divine Mother and Dakineshwar, and such a beautiful, I don't even want to say image or murti of her, because she is a divine being at Dakineshwar. And so the divine is there for us to connect with, is there in the different forms to connect with in the different ways as well. Whatever it takes. We do whatever it takes to love God. And so if it takes God in the form of, you know, Ganesha or Divine Mother as Kali or whoever it is, allow that love to flow and love the God in that as hard as you can. Just love the divine. And that will purify the heart. That will purify us. And it sticks with us. One last thing, I've mentioned this before, but during one of my really worst karmic times in recent history that I've had, I also had at the same time the closest connection with God ever. And it just felt like Divine Mother was wrapping her arms around me, even though it was a very difficult karma to swallow. And so this is what we can do when the hardest things happen. We don't have to feel abandoned. Instead, we can reach out. And we don't have to resent the divine saying, you did this to me. You can as a child. You did this to me. And Divine Mother will say, well, you can be distant from me, but you'll get a lot more from me if you try and be close, like a parent would say. So really try and find those patterns, and when you do, turn them inward. I'm currently working on a pattern that has come up for me on and off my whole life. I know it. And I have found a way, though. It will seem as though it's something outside of me. It will seem as though it manifested in someone in a certain way. And then, I'll be kind of caught in the delusion of it for a while. Why was that? Why was it that way? Why did it have to happen? What's going on here? And then I'll realize, it's that issue. And then I say, okay, I know how to deal with that issue. But see, it comes in different forms. And so it tries to fool you. But ultimately, the answer for me has been Divine Mother. Divine Mother gives that unconditional love. She cares about us so deeply. She cares about each and every one in this room. And she's so happy when people give their love. She's so happy. I'm sure she's very happy with everybody giving so much love to her today. Well, I say her, but you can think him and whatever you want. But that love of everyone together giving that love to her is such a beautiful, divine thing. And in discipleship, what is a better example of giving your love to the divine? By finding your guru, hopefully finding your Satguru. Hopefully this means this is the final climb before freedom comes. And who cares about freedom? And who cares about how much karma is left? If you can feel the presence of God in your heart now, you're there. And then the rest is just working through the karma that comes up. But if we can feel that presence of the divine in our heart, through our meditation first, if that's what's needed, and then hold on to that experience with the divine, and never let it go. Never blame God for our own karma. That karma it happened because of our own improper actions in the past. My friend, in her letter, she said, is this karma? Am I being punished? And so many times people think karma is punishment. But instead, we need to be like warriors. We need to say, bring it on, God. Give me all my karma. I want it. I want to work through my karma so I can be with you. It's a very loving thing we're asking for. And Divine Mother says, okay, I won't give you more than you can handle, but here you go. Thank you. Can I have another? And then we get hit and we say, I didn't ask for that. But then we come around, we go through the pain, we go through everything, and then, hopefully we can she does that, and we don't let her get far away. We don't turn our back. The only way the divine is far away from us is when we turn away. Otherwise, the divine is right there. And then we say, no, don't put your arms around me, like a 2-year-old, 2-year-olds. So it's like, come here. You were a bad little child, but let me give you a hug. And they're like, no, you punish me. That's how we are. You punish me. I'm going to go away. But then they're like, don't go too far away. And, and then a little later it's like, where are you? And they come running after you. I have to be with you. So we are like that also. But just next time something happens, don't turn your back to the divine. Don't turn your back on her. It's not her fault. It's your fault. We need to own that. But we're not being punished. You know, my most favorite explanation came from an acharya I know, where she said, in the past, we did an action when we were off-center, and it created karma. And off-center can mean angry, vengeful, needy. You know, there's all sorts of things, selfish. There's all sorts of qualities that make us off-center. And then the karma goes out, and someday when we're ready, it circles around and pushes us back to our center. And that center is feeling the presence of God. So all our karma wants us to do is feel the presence of God, to have that relationship with God. That's all our karma does. It wants to correct us, to move us back into our spines. And when we seek God first, all these things are added unto us. So just don't let her go. Don't stop blaming her from now on. And search your heart for all the times you have blamed her. Sometimes it's we've lost a loved one or a child or something just kind of closed the heart just a little bit. And then we just couldn't open again. So try and pluck out whatever pattern that is. You know, think of all the children and the parents and the siblings and everything we've lost lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. How many times? And we don't remember it. But if we remembered it, we would probably die out of grief, you know? So we need to learn to accept these losses. And I don't mean in a harsh way. We need to understand loss on a deeper level, that our loved ones don't go away. They're right there with us. We may want it to be differently, and that makes us mad, and that makes us turn away from God. But instead, we can embrace the present moment, embrace the karma that we have right now, and try to find the fastest way through it. If we are wallowing, that's the longest way through it. But if we are saying, Divine Mother, please be with me, help me to learn this lesson. And she'll instruct us and tell us what to do. And that's the fastest way through a difficult time, is through that prayer. I wanted to end with a beautiful passage. This is from Yoganandaji from the book, The Essence of Self-Realization, which is just a fabulous book. It's Yogananda's teachings on almost every single topic of life. And this one comes from the chapter, I think, How to Pray. So, pray with utter confidence that he is listening. For indeed, so he will, if you pray to him with love. Pray from your heart with deep intensity. Demand of him lovingly, never beg. By demand, I don't mean you should try to force your will on him, as though anticipating his reluctance to accede to your wishes. I mean pray with the firm conviction that he wants to give you everything you need, and that he will give it. Pray believing. Utter faith and love, these are the most important elements in prayer. Pray thus to God, my infinite beloved, I know that thou art nearer than these words with which I pray, nearer even than my nearest thoughts. Behind my every restless feeling, may I feel thy concern for me and thy love. Behind my awareness, may I feel sustained and guided by thy consciousness. Behind my love for thee, may I become ever more deeply conscious of thy love. If you continuously pray to him in this way, and if you pray with all sincerity, you will feel his presence suddenly as a great joy in your heart. In that bursting joy, you will know that he is with you and that he is your very own. Om Shanti Shanti.